Hello and welcome again to the Bottom Line Me podcast. I'm Ann Allard, and I am excited to be joined once again by Bill Svoboda to talk more about his simple business plan. Today, let's just recap a little bit first. We've talked about customer segments, we've talked value proposition. Our last conversation was one of my favorites, talking about visions for your business. And now I think we're going to get into the real nitty gritty here and talk about the foundation for scale. So Bill.
Yes.
Hi again.
Hey there. Well, yeah, and you set it up perfect, because once we know our customer, once we know what they want, once we know what type of business that we're dreaming of building to do that for them, now we got to figure out how are we going to do it. Okay. That right there is the pedal to the metal. That's what our industry is about: crossing the T's, dotting the I's. So let's dive into that. How do we provide the type of value proposition? And we're not going to talk about just title and escrow. That's not our value proposition anymore. It's what are people saying about us when we're not in the room? Of course, we do title and escrow, but what are we building as a business that's different? So let's start here. The three uniques in your business. There's this quote, and I wish I knew the person. The guy's name is John DeLeMay. I don't know who that is, but this quote is amazing.
You got me.
Yeah, I don't know. But the quote is this: in business, you're either unique or you're ignored. Okay? In business.
Can you say that again?
In business, you are either unique or you are ignored.
Wow.
Okay? Right there. Like, you're either unique or you're ignored. What does that mean? It means that, again, we're selling title insurance. It could be viewed as a commodity. I talk to realtors all around the country. I got to speak a few weeks ago to about 300 real estate agents. And in their mind, what is title? It's just title. They don't really know. But why do they choose one title company over the next? Fill in the blank for the reasons why. What are they choosing when they choose that title company? So I want to ask, what makes you unique as a title company compared to the rest of the title companies in the area? When I think about this, I have this idea, and I call it the Michael Jordan principle. Okay, are you a basketball fan?
Yes.
Okay, Michael Jordan. Let's
Go
say you
UMass.
Go UMass. I'm a big Marcus Camby fan back in the day. Yeah, that takes you back in the day. But okay, let's say Michael Jordan. Everybody on this podcast knows Michael Jordan, or LeBron James for the kids out there. And if you were going to challenge Michael Jordan or LeBron James to one game, what is the one game you would never challenge them to if you want to win?
Basketball.
Absolutely not. You would never challenge them to basketball. I would say you wouldn't challenge them to anything involving a ball. You would
or a sport.
No sports. No, like you'd switch it up to gardening. You'd switch it up to like anything
cooking,
but
right?
Cooking, yeah.
Yeah.
And who knows? Maybe they're so competitive they would still beat you. But the point is, Michael Jordan principle, LeBron James principle is this: if you're going to challenge them, you're not going to play the game that they are winning at. Okay. So when we think about our uniques and we're going against our competition, let's look at the game that competition is already winning at, and let's not try to compete on the same terms as them. So I mentioned this a few podcasts ago about the T-chart. Put your competition on one side and write your name on the other, and go, why would a real estate agent choose them over us or over to the other title companies in the area, and just write it out. And then write down, why would somebody choose you over the competition? If anything on those two sides of the T-chart are the same, cross it off. You're playing the same game. We need to change the game completely. And that right there is how we come up with our uniques. What makes our business truly unique? What game can I beat XYZ title at every time? Well, I can beat them at texting, or I can beat them at how our attorneys interact with the policies.
Right.
I can beat them at, we have a fully remote closing experience. I can beat them at, fill in the blank. What is it that you beat them at? I mentioned this in a previous podcast about the title company that has the macadamia nut and the oatmeal raisin cookies.
Yes, I know. I'm still hungry for one of those. I'm expecting a bag of them to be delivered.
Yeah, everybody knows them for that. When a realtor refers them over, why are they
Yeah.
referring somebody over? Because, on closing day, you're going to have these warm macadamia nut and oatmeal raisin cookies that are made when you walk through the door. They don't buy them from a bakery. They make them when you walk through the door. I know of another title company, and this is a great example. We all know closing day can be really busy, right? You get buyer, sell, everybody's frantic. Well, often there can be mistakes or things can take a little longer on closing day, making people get a little anxious. So this title company, what they do when they actually say, hey, here's the closing schedule, we schedule it for fill in the blank date at this location. They actually say this to the consumer. We're going to order Panera. We'd love to know what you'd like. Here are 3 options. Select what you'd like and we'll have it waiting for you on closing day. Okay, for the consumer. They don't do this for the realtor, they do it for the consumer. And then they tell the consumer, and if you don't reply back with what you'd like, we'll just have brownies or cookies or this or that waiting from Panera.
Right.
But what it does is now when that real estate agent tells the consumer, hey, I think you should go with, here's a title company that I love using. Here's my recommendations. And they go, this one right here, they actually on closing day, they'll send you a link to Panera. You can choose what you want and they'll be waiting for you because it's a stressful day. There might have to be some papers that get signed, but they'll have the Panera waiting for you. That right there changes the entire conversation from title and escrow to, hey, they're going to have Panera waiting for you for lunch. All of a sudden, the value proposition changed. So what is it about your title company that you're changing the conversation with? That's really where I like to start with. What makes you unique?
That's such a creative idea too. I mean, and I'm sure that out there in our listening audience, there's so many title agencies that have done similar things or their own unique things, but do they even think about, because it's not really even about, as you say, the title and escrow. It's just listening to you tell that story. There's a level of comfort and feeling relaxed that I would think the person or, the customer is going to have when they're walking in the door. These people really know what they're doing. And they've taken also into consideration my feelings.
And you didn't even know that you were going to feel anxious because you're just like, it's closing day. But walking in that day, you find out, oh gosh, I got all these documents. Yeah. So let's talk about this though. I love that you hit on that. It makes you feel, comfortable, cozy, like you feel secure.
Yeah.
That's the feeling you got.
That old Maya Angelou quote, people don't remember what you said or did, they only remember how you made them feel. And that is a stellar example of it.
Well, let's transition to the next thing. So once we kind of get the uniques, how do we make the uniques a part of our business? It's our customer experience process. So, Anne, if I go to that title company that does the warm macadamia nut cookies and the oatmeal raisins, that makes their title company, I mean, that might be one of the uniques, okay? Any title company in the world could have cookies and brownies and
sure.
Everybody has their thing. This title company, though, it's when the customer walks into the door, the macadamia nut cookies and the oatmeal raisin cookies are in the oven and they get pulled out. So let's talk about the customer experience process. We got to go all the way back to when that buyer or seller chooses to go with a realtor. That realtor, then the purchase agreements get signed. It goes to this title company. Boom. Closing day is scheduled. At that moment, how many things had to already happen in terms of a process? They had to know that on XYZ date, on March 22nd, we're going to have a closing. So they had to know they're going to have the cookie dough there. They got to be open. They got to have this, that. They got to have milk ready. The receptionist has to be ready for that. 20 minutes before the appointment, they have to put it into the oven. Process. We're not going to leave it up to the closer, the escrow officer, the processor, whoever. We're going to go, whenever you refer business as a real estate agent to this title company, here's what you can expect. Warm macadamia nut cookies, oatmeal raisin. When you send your purchase agreement over to us and say, here's a new file, you know that 35 days later, you're going to be walking in and there's going to be cookies waiting for your client. Process is what scales. And the example that I use with this is McDonald's. Are you familiar with the McDonald's story, how they started?
Yes.
Somewhat. Well, McDonald's started, Ray Kroc was this
Ray
milkshake.
Kroc.
Yeah, Ray Kroc, milkshake machine salesman, traveling the country trying to sell milkshake machines. And he came across this one little hamburger place called the McDonald's Brothers Hamburgers. And he saw a line out the door. He had never seen a line out the door of a hamburger place before. Once he got up to the front of the line, he saw little 14, 15, 16-year-old kids flipping burgers, dipping fries, making shakes, doing the whole thing. And he's blown away because every other hamburger stand across the country that he's been selling these milkshake machines to is all 40, 50, 60, 70-year-old husband and wives flipping burgers, dipping fries. I didn't know
this story. So
yeah.
This is a new...
So he is blown away. He's like, what in the world? And he looks at the menu. The menu was what? It was hamburger, cheeseburger, fries, soda, malt. He's never seen a menu like that. Every other place, it was like, what do you want? And the menu's as long as you can't even keep track of all the items. So he walks up and he gets his burger and he's like, what in the world is this? A burger for 10 cents? And he gets it and he's like, he watches them making every burger looked the same. 2 pickles, whatever it was.
Right.
He takes a bite and he's like, this is the best burger I've ever had. So he has to meet the McDonald brothers that started this. He's like, I got to meet you guys. I don't care about selling malt shake machines to you. I just want to know, how did you build this business? Because I've never seen something running so efficiently. They say, well, it all started with us. We actually got up on a ladder on a tennis court and we drew what we thought the kitchen should look like so that we could build it the most efficiently, so we could have how many people in the kitchen. We needed to have a lazy Susan so that we could put a burger on it and we could rotate it so they could get the ketchup, the mustard, the this on it. It was systems to support the scale. And Ray Kroc had never seen that before. So what did he do? He wanted to be franchisee. And he was like, well, if you can teach people to flip burgers and dip fries on a system, why don't we take this around the world? And now, years later, how many McDonald's are there?
No one. Wow.
All based on a system. Same point, there could still be that husband and wife flipping burgers, dipping fries, in their little diner.
Yeah.
And they're still with one little store. So systems scale. People don't scale. Like, we shouldn't be throwing more people at the problem. We should be throwing systems. So that's customer experience process. What is the process that anytime somebody comes to your title company, they go through?
I'm speechless with that. Tell me more.
Well, if we think about it, what's the next step out of the process? We need partners that help us do it. What staff do you need? Who are your vendors? Who are your underwriters? Who are the, in terms of McDonald's, who are your suppliers that help you make the burgers? Who do you all need? I think in businesses, we talk about what makes us unique. What type of customer experience are we going to provide? Now we got to talk about who do we need to help make this for us, so that our customers can be happy. And that goes into our software. It goes into, like I said, our underwriters. It goes into our team. What's your structure of business? What type of leadership structure do you run? This is an area that I think often gets overlooked or just minimized in value in our industry. It's just taken for granted. And you're at Old Republic. A lot of people could just look at an underwriter as an underwriter. But why should somebody put Old Republic in that box of their business under partners and resources? What are you bringing to the table to help them make their value proposition truly unique? That's something that every single business owner has to be thinking about. Who do I need? What do I need? What resources are going to help me make this? And, if you're still relying on the pen, paper, just mouse click computer, working in the old school software, it's time to lean in and think, how could I level up to provide a better customer experience? What should I be looking at?
Partnerships do that. I see where you're going with this. Yeah.
Last
Finding
area.
those. Yeah.
Yeah, and the last area in this part where we're just talking about, the foundations for scale. It's hard to scale
Mm-hmm.
and go like, we're going to put money into marketing something if we don't have something that's unique, something that's a process, something that's trusted, something that we have the right people, the resources, the partners to make it. But we also got to think about the risk. We got to think now about security and compliance. This is a
Right.
hot button topic area. As title industry decision makers
Mm-hmm.
on this podcast, we have to be thinking about what do we need to do for security and compliance. We hear about wire fraud like
Yeah.
crazy. We hear about vacant land fraud. There's always going to be something new. So my point in putting this on this growth and scale plan is going, what are you doing to make sure that your security and compliance is always an emphasis in your business?
Mm.
And that's something that you as an underwriter, you help
Yes.
a title company with.
Yes.
I just saw, new press releases about here, this new software came out. You're helping your agents know about what they should be doing in this
Yeah.
area, which is super risky.
Well, there's no question. But thinking about that in terms of putting together a plan, it really does need to be a huge component in putting together that foundation for scale. Because the first time you have a breach of some sort, um, we all know how that story ends for a lot of people, So um, thinking ahead and making sure that you're looking at recovery plans and how to prevent some of these things is critical, and staying up to date on it, which, and there was a lot of, I think, questions in that I mentioned early on the Title Reports annual survey. One of the biggest concerns of all of us in this industry is um, fraud, cybercrime, all of these things. And the only way that we're going to be able to manage it is to have these systems in place and to stay ahead of what's coming next, because it's always who would have ever, I mean, I remember one of the first time I heard last year about something called seller impersonation, my head nearly exploded. I said, never even heard of that. When did that phrase even become a phrase? But
There's always going to be something new. Let me give a very
yeah.
tactical end to this, Ann. For anybody on this podcast right now that's going, okay, I get it. 3 uniques, customer experience, partners, and security compliant. Like, these are the areas that I need in place if I'm going to put money into marketing and sales and trying to win more customers. Let me just make it very easy. I get to talk to a lot of title companies each year. I get to go around the country. And often people go, what's the first step in getting this area done? And I go into your boardroom and just put the process that you think you should be following on every single file onto a whiteboard. Just put it up there, draw a line from left to right, and go from the time somebody decides they're going to give us a file to the time we close it. What are all the things that have to happen during it? And it's very easy then to start thinking about, okay, here's our process. Now, what software do we need to help us do it? Where does our underwriter come in? What type of technology do we need to lean on? What do we need to outsource? What type of staff do we need to make this happen? How many locations do we need? Everything else becomes very easy when you start then thinking in terms of, from the time we get a file to the time it closes, what should happen. So I think that's the takeaway from today is it's like, what's the bottom line here? It's shut the door, go in the conference room, put on a whiteboard, a big line, and just start plotting out what the customer's experience is. And everything is going to come into light. You're going to start realizing we need to focus on this area more. Or, hey, this happens at this point. We never think about that. We need to put more thought into it. We should tell our customers this is going to happen before it happens. What are the most asked questions? Can you proactively answer them? So that's really my takeaway for today. It's, work on your business, not in it.
Yeah, I think, what it brings to mind for me is, I think going through that particular kind of an exercise is going to help you fill in those blanks in all of those areas. So if you're not sure how to answer some of these questions or what to do with some of the sections of this, that is a great piece of advice, a great suggestion. And I agree with you. I think that's a great way for us to end. So we're almost at the end for sure, Bill, but I can't tell you how much this conversation has been enlightening for me, and I'm sure for a lot of our listeners. So we're going to finish up on our final podcast talking about your growth engine, and that's going to be a fun one, I'm sure. So thanks again for being here today. And to our audience, again, thank you. Till we meet again, don't forget to learn, grow, and prosper.